Now with the front line with Joe and Joe once again. Let us go into the breach.
That's actually an important part of freedom as well. If those doing the money exchange or running the money system can stop people who disagree with them politically, that's a huge problem. I mean, so that happened in Canada with the trucker strike, where people were being basically financially ostracized from society for just being a peaceful strike. So I think it's important that we have a within the bounds of the law that we enable freedom of flow of money, which is a form of information. That's actually an important part of freedom as well.
This is a story that the CBC sure as heck won't cover. It's basically a protest. Well, it isn't basically a protest. It is a protest. It's in Uganda. Students at least 13 universities take to the streets in front of their parliament and they sing, "We don't want your gay money." Very interesting. We want and love our country more than money. Can Canada and the United States say the same thing? The new imperialism coming from the West, that includes Canada and the US, is imposing our quote-unquote progressive values on countries like Uganda who are not interested in them. Yet what we do is we make aid contingent upon their leadership to push forth woke ideology. That is colonialism. That's exactly the type of stuff that Trudeau and Joe Biden talk about when they say that European imperialism came to the countries of Canada and the US and imposed their values. They're doing the same thing. Yet it's never covered. Do you think the CBC is going to cover that? Wake up. They never will, but it's reality. That's why turn off the news. I got news for you. This is the news. Justin Trudeau tells the UN that COVID showed us what we're capable of achieving with regard to the agenda. The agenda, what is it? The 2030 Sustainable Development Goals, which the globalists have put forth through who? The WEF. Why is this important? Because when he says COVID showed us what we're capable of, he's basically showing his cards here. And this is how you have to read the tea leaves. Politicians never tell you anything. You have to read between the lines. What he's basically saying here is this. COVID was a tool. It was a crisis. And they used the crisis to do what? To get power. Who did they take it from? You. That is exactly what happened across the West. You've noticed governments have taken power away from people. What did they do? They used COVID as an excuse. They made executive orders. Oh, because of the crisis, we have to do X, Y, and Z. They didn't go through their legislative bodies. They had to put forth actions. We have to do them now because of COVID, because of COVID. Well, you know something? It's time people take that power back. But here's a sad reality about power. Power is taken. It's not given. And it was taken from you. He's telling you what he did. He's basically saying COVID showed us what we are to do with regard to pushing forth these 2030 goals. He says, using his words exactly, what we're capable of doing. He's not talking about going through legislative bodies. He's not talking about representing the people. He's talking about the exercise of raw power. And he's saying that in, to be honest with you, masked terms to the UN. They know exactly what he's talking about. It's people who don't know what he's talking about because the press doesn't cover it. You have to see through the fog and see through the language. He used COVID. He's not alone. Biden did the same thing. So did the leaders in Europe. It was a tool. And don't get me wrong. A lot of people died. If someone hears that, they'll say, look at this person. He's a denier of so many deaths. People died, particularly old people. And it was a shame. With that said, though, they used that crisis as a tool to take power from you. He's telling you that. And what he's saying is, This is the way we move forward to do what? To reach our 2030 goals. And in doing so, he will bury the average person. He already is, and he means business. His ideology trumps your lifestyle. The average man. Get that through your head. No person who isn't affluent, whatever you call yourself politically, should support this agenda. Let's go to the streets of Canada. They're in front of the office of the Prime Minister. Play the clip.
Hey, Casey here. Live on Wellington Street. That's Parliament Hill behind me. And directly in front of me is the Prime Minister's office and the Privy Council. And guess what is flying here? Take two guesses. Here, I'll flip it around. Show you the sign. Here we go. Office of the Prime Minister and Privy Council. No Canadian flags at the door of the Prime Minister's office, at the front door on Wellington Street.
So the Canadian flag is not flying in front of the office of the Prime Minister. Interesting. The motion calling for David Johnston to step down for a public inquiry to be called was passed 174 to 150. Now let's watch Justin Trudeau, who will now ignore the will of the House and the will of the people. Oh, but we are a democracy, Canada, aren't we? Canada May has come to a close. And oh, by the way, 3 Catholic churches were targets of arson in that month alone. Do you know about that? No. Why? Because the mainstream media doesn't cover it. That's why. Know why? Because they don't care. That's why. Here's my question to you. Do you care? You should care. Because that's what democracies care about. Discrimination. We're all equal, right? Discrimination is bad, right? Well, maybe it isn't when it comes to Catholics. Are we allowed in Canada to burn churches and no investigation, no media coverage gets given to it? Why is that? Know why? Because the people don't care enough. If they cared enough, it would get covered. If it cared enough, the politicians would care. But they don't. And that is why no one cares. And that is why we are in the state we're in. I want you to look at this clip from CTV News. This is your news from Canada, people. And then you tell me if you should turn it off. This is what it says. It says pregnant people should be especially vigilant when wildfires pollute the air. Pregnant people. You could say it. You could say it. Try. Pregnant women. Women get pregnant, not people. Women. They're not chest feeders. They're mothers. Come on. You could do it. You could do it. Say it. Let's take some steps. You could do it. I want you to look at this picture. It's so manufactured. Justin is trying so hard to pretend like he likes Danielle Smith, and Danielle Smith is trying so hard not to smirk. They shouldn't take pictures like this. They're so transparent. Justin, either he wants to just scream or he ate like something very sour. My kids like Sour Patches. Remember those? Or Lemon Heads. You remember the Lemon Heads when you're a kid? He looks like he ate like a whole box of them. Ride the purple wave, Canada. Go with Maxime Bernier and the People's Party because they represent you and not the globalists. I got news for you. The Uniparty doesn't represent you. The purple wave is the way to go, baby. Maxime Bernier makes a very important public statement. Pay attention to it, Canada. He says no to the WEF, no to the UN, and no to globalism. Play the clip.
Are you associated, the weekly WEF question. Also, are you associated with the World Economic Forum in any way? And if so, how?
No, I'm not. I'm not, and I will not be part of them. And I was not part of that organization. I was there only once when I was Foreign Affairs Minister in 2007 or 8, I don't remember. And I was there when our country was in Afghanistan. And I was there because it was an opportunity for me to meet all the foreign affairs ministers from other countries. They were there at the same time. So I had meetings with them and I was asking them to help us in Afghanistan. And after these meetings, I left and I didn't go to the conference. I was there because it was practical. Everybody were there and it was practical to have a lot of meetings with my counterparts. And that's what I did. So, and after that, I've never been, and I don't, that's a socialist organization that I don't support. And I'm supporting our country, and we are putting Canada first. We are putting Canadian first, and we want to preserve our sovereignty as a country. So we are saying no to the World Economic Forum, and we are saying no to the UN also.
Why is this important? Couple things. One, all of those no's, which he just noted, help average people, the regular person in Canada. That's a very important point. Don't listen to the rhetoric. Don't listen to the mainstream media. Are you doing well now? Well, guess what? It'll only get worse. He's helping you by saying no to the WEF, globalism, and the UN. Point one. Point two, no politician will make those statements. Why? Because they get money from special interests. All of those companies, look at the website of the WEF, see all the names of the companies that basically either support our members on the board. They will not make that statement because that is how they get their money, whether they call themselves conservative or liberal. It's a brave statement to make. Good for him. Canada should pay attention to it. And lastly, there is nothing wrong with being a nationalist. That term has been turned into a bad word. You're a hater. You're a fascist if you're a nationalist. No, you're not. You're a Canadian. You should be proud of being a Canadian. And your politicians don't represent globalists, the world, the United States, Europe. They represent Canada, the regular people. And in order to represent the regular people, you have to say no to the WEF. You have to say no to the UN. You have to say no to the globalists. And no politicians will do that because of ESG, environmental social governance, because the corporations give them money. And in doing so, they don't represent you. Maxime Bernier, brave man, brave statement. You should pay attention to it.
Hey Canada, show the country that you stand for freedom with one of these hats from our store. Your purchase supports this channel. Check out the link in the description and order yours now.